welcome to Care Lab.
Welcome to Care Lab, everybody. Listen, we're going to just be honest. We were trying to think of a topic that Emilia and I would be good at talking about, and YouTube suggested a couple. So we said, okay, let's see what they got. And you know what it boiled down to? Everybody has questions about self, but then
Yes.
Emilia, with her profoundness, was like, the answer is what?
The answer is, can I also just say before I give the answer here, Brandy, that we were in the middle of talking and you just went ahead and hit record?
Because I was like, this is gems that's getting dropped right here. We might as well just record it.
So here we go. Listen, the answers to how do you take care of yourself are basically always going to be the same, right? They might not be exactly the same for every person, but they all fall into these general, I would say, like 3 to 4 categories, which is like take care of your body. So, exercise, sleep well, get enough sleep, and feed your body good things. Eat good, healthy food, exercise, take care of your body, and get enough rest. And I know those are the most boring answers in the world, which is why no one wants them and why no one is satisfied with them. And also why they're really frustrating answers, though, right? Because it's like, we know that that's the truth. We know that's the case, but it's not the answer we want because it's not that easy to do. Actually,
exactly.
Right?
And it's also, particularly harder here in America because of the way everything's set up. Literally everything's set up to be against those 3 principles, against getting enough sleep, against eating well, and against exercise. I'm going to give you examples for each. So we have a culture of hustle, hustle, go, 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 and something's happening at all times of day and night. And if you're going to get ahead in whatever you're doing, you need to be up doing it. Right? Like that's like the pressure you feel. I used to live in Washington from Kansas. These are 2 different speeds of life. And when we moved to DC, it's a great place and I loved it. But a very acceptable answer for why you couldn't come or you were late to come is and people say that at 6 in the morning and they say it at 9 and 10 o'clock at night and nobody flinches. Oh, you're working, it's fine. It's a culture of hustle and grind work. Lots of young people there doing political stuff and big things, but like the culture says keep working. The food
and it's not
system
just okay, like it's the expectation that you should be
expectation.
on all the time.
All the time. Yeah. And so plenty of other cities feel that way. And just overall, because I've traveled lots of places, America has that sense of hustle and grind in ways that some other places don't have it as innately in their culture.
Don't you think devil's advocate a little bit here? Like part of that hustle and grind being a part of our culture, like it's so foundational to America. And it's like foundational, I think, to the success of America in a lot of ways too, right? Like we have this innate hustle and grind. But I do think that there are fewer boundaries on that now, even than there were in the past. Like I think that there still used to be some sense of quitting time and like a boundary and space between the hustle and grind and stopping and relaxing. And now it's just on all the time. I think that even in our like quote unquote like leisure activities, they're so stimulating. If you are like, if you're on social media all the time, if you're on Instagram all the time, TikTok all the time, like if you're like on YouTube all the time, you're just sitting there and it's all meant to be like hyper stimulating, right?
To keep you engaged in doing that thing, right? And that all relates to technology because like a lot of people's work can be done anywhere. We are hosting a podcast if we don't live in the same city,
right?
We literally have never met in person.
That's so crazy.
So like the connectedness, like every strength is usually your biggest strength is usually also your biggest weakness, right? And so that's true for you as individuals, for business, for a country, for a society. And so the reason the American dream exists is partly because of this culture of work, which is against the idea of getting enough sleep. So that's the other thing you said was making sure you feed your body well and you put good stuff in it. That's a challenge here because even
really
when you
big challenge.
Even when you do try, the stuff we get is not nutritious as it used to be. And it's like even the produce, like you kind of need to get it from a farmer's market and from the people who actually grew it to be sure that you have the best quality that you can get in your body. And that's going a long ways, right? And people might not have access to that for many.
Mhm.
So if you just need to eat and you've been working all day, then you stop somewhere to eat something. Basically, all of it is bad. So it's like you have very few good options. And I'm not advocating that we should go to McDonald's, but McDonald's don't even sell salads anymore. Like you didn't even got a choice to be like, I'm gonna eat some vegetables there.
No iceberg lettuce even.
Not even the iceberg lettuce that is zero of everything.
Yes.
So it's just you have to be super intentional. And even when you are trying, I've worked that were put on a low sodium for various reasons, right? And they're like
Hmm.
trying, and they're like eating more vegetables. You can't eat, and you can't. You're like, what? Well, this is beans. This is tomatoes. This is corn. I usually can green beans. I'm like, it's full of sodium. They're like, I didn't
Hmm.
add any salt to it. I used Mrs. Dash to season it. I was like, I know you did the right thing, but how it got to you was wrong. You need to use frozen. Or you got to use fresh because they already put a lot of sodium in it. And that's like the hidden stuff that if you don't pay attention or you haven't been educated, don't even know, and you're inputting a bunch of stuff into your body that is bad for you, even if you're trying to do good.
Yeah, I think that eating healthy in particular is really so challenging for all of the reasons that you just said. I mean, when you are trying to eat and you're already tired and exhausted and you don't have time to like prepare a healthy meal, or you don't have access to those fresh foods, which is a huge problem in lots of
Huge.
parts of this country. Like, if you don't know what a food desert is, Google it, check it out. They really, really exist and they seriously impact people's health and well being and quality of life. And we have a lot of them in this
Mm-hmm.
country. So people's just ability to even access those like fresh and healthy foods that they need is a really big problem. And of course, it's more expensive to buy food now than it has been in a long time. And
Any
so that
food.
any food at all, yeah, so that impacts the choices that people are able to make
Mm-hmm.
well. And I think that we're talking all about all of this from like a general perspective, but if you add on the layer of also being a caregiver who
Mm-hmm.
is having to provide a significant amount of either supervision or hands-on care for someone to keep them safe and healthy and well, then all of these difficulties are multiplied, 100-fold.
Exactly. And so it just makes it harder. So, and then the third thing that you said, I think it makes all the sense, is that we need to move our bodies more.
Mm-hmm.
You need your heart rate to go up, and everything in our lives in America is set up to not. So, drive pretty much cities are not even set up for walk. Literally, my street doesn't have a sidewalk. Like they're not, when they planned that neighborhood, they weren't thinking about you walking your dog. They were thinking about you driving to and from work. And didn't provide a safe place for you to walk it. And we can do so much work from computers and from staying in one place, and we're sitting down all the time that there's just like not a level of activity built. Which is why you got to go work out, but in a different time frame, in different countries, in different settings, walking is built into what you do every day. And I know I talk about this all the time, but the blue zones, the one of the themes there is that there's a lot of activity, physical activity built. Nobody's going to the gym and working out at 100 years old, but they are in their garden, walk to go eat dinner. Their family might live a few blocks away and they walk over there. They live in a hilly place, and so you have to, just walking up your driveway is a hill, and that's effort. And so like that was one of the themes in the places where people live the longest. Physical activity.
I love that you bring that up as one of your points, that like we don't it's exercise is not always about like thinking, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go exercise now. I'm going to run. I'm going to lift weights. I'm going to do 50 squats or 20 crunches or whatever it is." Literally the way that most of us stay healthy and fit and strong is just going about our daily activities. This is
Mm-hmm.
actually something that I've talked about with my patients in the past all the time, saying, "Hey, I know that it seems like we just have to be exercising right now, but really what it comes down to is we just need to be moving our bodies." And the way most of us keep our bodies moving is just by doing our regular daily activities. And so those things can be built into your day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you're right, the way that our kind of culture and society has sort of transitioned over the last, I don't know, however many decades, is that we're just becoming naturally more sedentary. There's not our environments are not built to allow us to move. I think people are more fearful of going outside. They're fearful of sending their kids out to play,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, how often do you see kids riding their bikes anymore?
Not that often.
Not that
I know.
often. But
I can't send my kids out to ride the bike because I don't want them riding the street. We don't
there
want a
you
sidewalk.
there you go. When I was a kid, I rode my bike everywhere,
Me too.
and it like
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a thing. We just went out and did it. I don't think my parents ever knew where I was. And that was a thing. No
Come
idea.
home when the street light comes on. That's it.
Exactly. Exactly. We were off. I don't even know where we were. But we were fine, and it was okay. And now, there's a lot of fear about even letting your kids go outside to do that, or going
Mm-hmm.
out for a walk yourself. And our leisure activities have become, I think, more sedentary too.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I have no problem with Netflix and chill. I like to Netflix and chill. But
Mm-hmm.
if all you're doing is Netflix and chilling, playing on video games, messing around on YouTube, scrolling through your social media, that's a lot of overstimulation for your brain and understimulation for your body. And,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't make for happy campers.
And I know it can sound like, I don't know, doctory or foggy or I don't know, just like stuffy, like, okay, there's only those three things.
Mm-hmm.
But we've railed about why those things are hard to do, but they really do tie to your health.
Yeah.
Like literally your blood sugar and your blood pressure are tied to how much you weigh plus how much you move your body. Move your body more than your cells, and they do what they're supposed to do. Your body was made for don't have motion. We get all kinds in our legs, wound, more infection, difficulty breathing, and all that leads to those chronic illnesses, the big ones that you hear about. But it starts with little stuff because you're not moving your body. And so I guess we talked about how hard it is.
Hey there, it's Amelia. Listen, I am so thrilled to have a great resource like Ask Sammy as part of the Care Lab team, and here's why. It's a game changer for aging in place because it makes it so simple. All you do is ask. Just type in your question or even tell Sammy what the problem is and get tailored solutions. Everything from innovative adaptive equipment to comprehensive resources. It's a great way to become more empowered, to live more independently, and to live with greater confidence. And my favorite thing about how Ask Sammy works is it's deeply rooted in dignity and practicality. So, whether you're a fellow therapist, a care partner, or someone who's seeking solutions for themselves, visit www.asksammy.com. We're going to link it in the show notes so you can find it there. Start making home more accessible today. Now, back to the show.
But I think there are also probably some easy ways to prove all three of those things in most situations if you're intentional about it. Do you got any ideas?
I do. And I'm actually going to throw in the other two things that I think are really, really important for health and well-being. And there's a bunch of research to back up all of this stuff, but I want to add in the last two things that I think people will also relate to here. One is meaningful activity, right? Doing things that you truly enjoy doing. That could be a work activity if you love your work, but it could also be something that you're doing for leisure. But it, in general, does not involve sitting around and just watching. It involves some kind of actual participation in doing whatever feeds you, but meaningful activity. And the second thing is,
Wait. Don't go to the second thing.
oh,
Because
okay.
I don't even think you get, when I hear that, I can easily say, well, isn't that the same thing as moving your body? But that's
Mm,
not what you're saying.
that's
You're
not what I'm
saying
saying.
something that your heart and mind are engaged in that
Hmm.
are a reason for getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of our reasons for getting up in the morning is I need to work. If you don't need to work anymore, big thing what happens when you retire, if that was your only sense of purpose, then we don't do as much, more depressed. And so what you're saying about meaningful activity is not just moving your body. That's two separate things.
Hmm.
It's something that you can get up in the
Exactly. And so that does tie into the second thing that I was going to say here too, which is social interaction. It is so important to interact with other people as part of
mm,
a community. And so how do these two things go together? Well, a lot of times the things that we enjoy, that we find meaningful, that kind of feed us,
mm-hmm.
we can meet other people who also enjoy those same things, right?
Yep,
And that
yep.
that's like this crazy giant double dose of goodness basically for you if you're doing something you enjoy doing with other people. I mean, that is a huge, huge way that we can support our health and wellness.
Some people are going to say, well, I'm an introvert and I don't like to hang out. And I'm going to say, that's crap because every, it is. Everything in our lives is, you want to pull on a thread that goes, it's interpersonal interactions. Now, some people like that more than others. Some people need more, but everybody. I was just talking to the founder of the Golden Life Women who are 55 plus and single, and particular so left out, alone, and without having a partner or somebody around them. There was no other sense of community because they didn't have an engagement with anybody else. So they created and just by putting people together, not even physically, but virtually, and giving the opportunity, it improved people's quality of life. And like, that's just one example, but really dig to the bottom of a whole bunch about not having enough. We are so, as a rule, we're social creatures. I might need a lot. Like, I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from being around people and engaging and doing that stuff. That's awesome. Some people who are introverts don't get your energy from being around big groups of people, but that doesn't mean you don't need it. Might just be one-on-one. It might just be at smaller amounts, but you need something. And everything in our society is kind of set up to like make it so you don't feel like you have to connect, right? Because we just don't have as many random occasions. That's the reason we have online dating, right? Is because like people had a hard time meeting people in real life, and quote, create another way to connect with people because we're having a hard time connecting. And so that's like, it also.
Okay, so we should, because we've spent a lot of time talking about how very important these things are and the fact that there's kind of not a way around it. Everyone,
you need it. Everybody needs it.
You have to take care of your body. You have to get enough sleep. You have to eat good food. You need to do things that you love, and you need to have social interaction, right? That's a lot of needing and shoulding. And I'm sorry, because no one, and this is from Elizabeth Miller, I should give her credit. No one wants to be should on. I get that. No one does. But the facts remain that these are the things that we really have to do to take care of ourselves. These are the things, if you want to know what self-care really works, this is the basis of any self-care that's actually really going to work. So what are some small things that we can do? Because we don't have to go from sitting on the couch to running a marathon in one day, right? We take baby steps. What are some small things that you can do, little baby steps, to help go in the right direction for some of these things?
Yeah. Let's start with food.
Because
we do that the most often, right? We're going to do that.
Got to eat all the time.
I mean, super small changes. Okay, there are some small, try your best in as many opportunities as you have. Looks like as close, right? Not fried, but maybe baked. I'm not telling you to change everything, become vegan. I'm just saying try to consider close to how they got to before they got to.
There's also, and obviously this totally depends on what's available to you in your local area, but in a lot of places there are like shared kind of like farm to table delivery services that can be really inexpensive. So for example, like you can sign up for delivery services from like a local farmer's market, or even like, a local farmer, if that might be near you, or just kind of go online and see what sort of like vegetable or produce delivery services are available. And what'll happen is often they'll like bring you a big old box of just random fruits and vegetables, okay? Just like some random produce people. And a lot of times it'll be more than you can actually eat. So what you can do is you can get together with friends or neighbors, or see there's opportunities for social interaction here. Connections, people. And you can basically like get these boxes and then you can share them between people so that everyone has the opportunity to have, some like fresh, really healthy produce. You get introduced to some new things you may not have been aware of. So you can like start thinking a little bit more creatively, trying something new in the kitchen, cooking. And you can do it at a relatively low cost a lot of times, especially if you're like splitting the cost between people. So again, the Service often depends really locally on where you are. You might have to do a little bit of Googling and legwork, or, ask around the neighborhood, or go to your local farmer's market and ask about it if you have that available to you. But it can be worth it because it can be an easy and cheap way to get some extra yummy veggies and produce in your diet. And then
Mm-hmm.
also, like I said, it's an excuse to actually meet people and, talk with your neighbors or friends, or have a nice chat.
And one other thing that a lot of people don't know is that if you're on SNAP, a lot of farmers SNAP dollars or and double. So like
Oh,
in
wow.
Kansas
I didn't
City,
know
we
that.
have in Kansas City we have City Market, and if you take your SNAP dollars to City Market instead of getting something for $1, you can get it. What I would pay $2 for, you can pay $1 for of your SNAP. It's very worth it. And then the other thing that's really awesome about farmers sometimes, or places that sell, sometimes the stuff is getting ready to go bad. They're not going to be able to sell it in a day or two, and they mark it down to $1 for a whole bunch of stuff. You save money that way, access that. It does make your palate be a little bit more open because you're working with whatever's available and not just getting the same things every time. But that's not bad. There's so much on YouTube that will tell you about everything. I literally have an acorn squash. I have no idea what to do with this, but I'm gonna figure that out.
I'm a really big fan for like time management when it comes to eating and eating healthy food. I'm a really big fan of like prepping food beforehand when I do have the time. So
Mm-hmm.
if I have a little bit extra time on a Saturday or Sunday, trying to do a bunch of food prep for the week, or even
Mm-hmm.
for like 2 weeks, just kind of depends on what it is. And I'll prep everything and then throw some of it in the freezer, maybe throw some of it in the fridge, but that way I have stuff that's already prepared and healthy that I can eat off of, and that I can feed my family, and it's not going to take me forever to do it. And also, honestly, it just makes it so much less stressful. This is actually, it's nice to be healthy, but honestly, this is the real reason I do it.
Mm-hmm.
I personally find it so stressful to like be at work all day, go home, pick up the or like go pick up the kids, go home, they've got activities after school, and in the meantime being like, what am I going to feed these children? And like, what am
Mm-hmm.
I going to feed me? And when my husband gets home, like, what is he like? What are we all going to eat? Because let's be honest, it really makes a difference in your evening whether or not
Yep.
there's food available. Um, and so just having those things prepped and just saying, okay, I can just grab this, I can just grab that, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to think about it at all. It makes my day and my evening so much less stressful to
Yep.
do
To
that
do that food prep.
preparation. Yeah.
I tried. I think we could do a whole episode about ways to improve your diet steps, but we got 5
Ooh,
self care tips. So
yikes.
we
We gotta
did
move.
food.
We gotta move
We gotta
on.
move. We gotta move on. How about some easy ways? We're gonna move to topics. Let's move our bodies. Add more movement to our day.
So this can be so simple, I think. If
Mm-hmm.
you, let's say you actually love to garden, you love being outdoors with plants, but maybe you don't have the time, the money, the wherewithal, the space that you need to go outside and garden. And by the way, if you do, get outside there, water those plants. But if
Yep.
you don't, and let's face it, a lot of us don't, depending on whatever situation we're in, can you have a couple house plants?
Mm-hmm.
And can you place them around the house or the apartment or wherever you live strategically so that you have to walk to them,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're having to get up and check on them and water them. By the way, growing things is also so good for the soul. It can be a very meaningful activity that
Mm-hmm.
also gets you up and moving. So I think that that's kind of a great and easy example. And you'd be surprised, those of you who think you have black thumb, it it can be green if
You can learn.
you can learn. I say this because I used to kill everything. But do you know why I killed everything?
Why
Because I
you
paid it
overwatered it?
no because I didn't water it and I paid it no attention. That's why.
The good
Yeah,
thing about that is a solution is because it needs to be done every day,
it's got to
right?
be
And it
done.
needs to be
Yeah.
done on a regular, and you see the effects of it if they don't, right? It gives you a little bit extra motivation to deal with them, especially when you're in the house and you actually see them. My garden dies on the outside because I just don't even go out to the backyard, and I go out there. I'm like, oh, I should water these plants. Oh, they are dead already. So house plants is a great way to start. The other thing I'd add is you have to park spot. You
Mm.
could just park a little bit further away and walk into where you're going and walk out. You've already added more, and you'll probably find a parking spot faster.
Ooh, piggyback on that. How often do we take the stairs? Ah, not
Yeah.
not that often probably, but if that is something that's available to you, both in your environment and like physically you're capable of taking the
Mm-hmm.
stairs, it's
Mm-hmm.
another. In fact, when I before what I ever exercised like at all, like when I had wee little kids and I just there was no time for anything like that. I wasn't going on any runs, people.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing any yoga. I wasn't doing any of that. But I would take the stairs at work and I'd be huffing and puffing up those stairs. And I tell you what, sometimes I get to like my patient's the next floor, wherever my patient was, and
Stand outside the door, catch
I'd
your
stand
breath.
outside the door, or I walk in and I'd be like, hold on, I'm okay. I just took the stairs. My name's Emilia. I'm an occupational therapist. One moment, please. But like that was how I got my activity. And you know what? I got it where I could.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Just find ways. It don't have to take a lot. Care Lab listeners, it's Brandy, and as the founder of a platform made to make aging in place easier for everyone, I knew it would be incomplete if we did not have education, especially for caregivers. So whether you're a family caregiver or somebody who trains a whole organization, Higher Standards caregiver training videos are for you. I'm so proud that we were able to partner together with Emilia in order to provide these to you because they're easy for everybody. You get great occupational therapist-led training on topics like transfers and how to care for someone as they age, or maybe as things change when you have Parkinson's. So no matter if you're the loved one who doesn't know exactly what to do next because things are getting different, or if you're a professional who trains caregivers that go into the community and you need some quality education, you get both from Higher Standards Caregiver Training. And you need to check them out at higherstandardscaregivertraining.com.
Yeah, and I think that, these are obviously a few really simple examples, but you can, if you're listening to this, you're a smart person, like you can take that ball and run with it. Just think about, okay, how can I space out my environment? How can I manage what I do in a way that just makes me move just a little bit more? And
Mm-hmm.
if you can make it something that you enjoy doing, then you're going to be way more motivated to do that movement too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay, so what about uh, connecting with others? You've been weaving it in all of them.
Been weaving it in. I mean, that's the great thing about social interaction is once you kind of go out there and just start the conversations where you put yourself in the situation where other people are around and you get over that scary part of actually starting to talk to someone, a lot of times these things happen pretty naturally because humans are like a social we are a social animal, right? We
We're
have to be
social. We're wired to
connected.
connect. We're
Mhm.
wired to connect.
Because we don't
Yes.
do well on our own. Back in the day when we were, running across the savannah trying to hunt things down, you can't do that by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So we are literally wired to be together. So kind of once you get started, things get a little bit easier. That was a very non-specific answer. Brandy, you probably have something more helpful to say.
I think, if you tie it to an act, a lot easier, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're going to go do a thing that you like and there's other people who like that and you've automatically created community. You have a community around so many different things. You can have a church community. You can have your people in your neighborhood that you actually physically see. You can have a virtual, so like to read from this particular author. Like it actually to your brain and it doesn't really matter as long as you have some level of connection, whether it's in person or not. And so that's one of the big. I know we've railed kind of on screen time, social media, and virtual stuff, but this is actually one of the big benefits of the internet. Even if you have the most niche interests that like only 5 people in the world like, you can find those 5 people
Yeah.
online.
And that is really cool. What I would say, and I'm going to say something kind of controversial here.
Okay, here we go.
So please forgive me for anyone whose opinion may differ. There are so many support groups for caregivers online, and that's a really right.
Mm-hmm.
This is a wonderful thing that there are places where people can find each other. They can share their shared experiences. They can talk to people who really kind of get where they're coming from. But here's what I'm about to say that would be controversial, perhaps. Don't only spend your time in those support groups. Like, and here's the reason why. It's so important when you are a caregiver to have something that is outside of that is just for you.
Yeah.
And support groups, as absolutely vital and important as they are, ultimately are are centered around that caregiving experience, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it lets you to process those things, but it also keeps you in that space. You have to have something that allows you to not be in that space in your head for a
Mm-hmm.
little while. So maybe in addition to the support group online, maybe you join a virtual book club. And in that book club, you don't talk about being a caregiver. Maybe no one even knows you're a caregiver. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like sharing that information, you just talk about whatever book you're reading and have a good time in a way that is not connected with with the difficulties and struggles that maybe you'll be having. So I think that's really, really important. Like, we can't just go down the same rabbit hole over and over again. There has to be some level of separation. And I think that's important for both social interaction and thinking about, I don't want to, if you just are talking about the things that are frustrating you over and over and over again all day, you think you're going to feel less frustrated? Probably
Probably
not.
not. No.
Probably not. So we have to find a way to have some social interaction that allows us to get outside of that space so we can have other perspectives and take a break mentally from those things for a little while. I think that's a really important part of social interaction. And again, to your point, Brandy, there are actually great things about the internet and social media and things like that. And when we can find other people and connect about things, then that is really a wonderful way to do that.
Okay, I think we say hardest for last.
Okay.
How do you get more sleep?
Mm. That is so hard. Okay, we could actually take a whole episode on this. And if you would
We probably
like us,
should.
we probably should. If that's something that you would like, then let us know in the comments, because we probably should, because sleep is so absolutely vital. And there are lots of parts of it that we can dig into. I'll say a couple things here, and I think this is particularly important for caregivers, is to protect your sleep by having really firm boundaries about what does and doesn't need to happen actually at night. Obviously there are some things that you have to wake up for that are required, but maybe sometimes I and I say this like from experience that I've had before, maybe sometimes the things that someone wants to happen at night, they don't necessarily have to happen at
Yeah.
night, right? I
Can you
don't.
give an example maybe of like when you say happen at night, you mean like something's happening overnight?
Mm.
And or you mean like the routine to going to bed is to not yourself
Oh,
on time?
I think both of those things. And actually, like, I would recommend listening back to the episode that we had with Consuela Marshall to
Yeah, she
hear
talked
her
about that
story about
directly.
her. Yeah, she's talked about that so well. So I definitely would recommend listening back to Consuela's episode. She's fantastic and shares her story with her mom. But yes, so I think having a nighttime routine that makes sense so that everyone can get to bed at a reasonable hour, having a set schedule for things. But then also, are there ways that you can ensure that needs are met, before bed and in the morning? Or are there ways that you can help people to be more self-sufficient at night? And again, I realize this is an
Take it
individual
with a grain of salt.
situation. Take it with a
Yes.
grain of salt. Like listen, I'm a person talking to you from the outer space of the internet world. I don't know your personal situation or what's going on. So you do what you need to do at nighttime to keep someone safe, obviously. But if there's a need that can be met before bedtime or in the morning and it really doesn't need to be met overnight, it's more a matter of like you checking on someone because you feel the need to, or them wanting to be checked on. But like, I am pot calling the kettle black here. My kids didn't sleep for the first year. Why? Probably mostly because of me, honestly, because
Mm-hmm.
I could not go in and check on them all
And
the
then they woke
time.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they woke up. It was like this was a me problem, not a my kids problem. So, I'm talking to myself here, just as much as anyone else who, if they're hearing this, might be thinking, maybe I could work on that too.
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing, and this is a great. The whole thing is a great conversation for me right now because I have been neglecting to do these exact same things that we're talking about
Mm.
because in pursuit of deal with little grow up and it's catching up with me, and literally just went to the primary care doctor and we had to make some changes, and so now I just have to protect myself. So because there's always getting up a little bit later and getting up 4 hours, whatever.
Yeah.
There's always a whatever, but there's not always a time where you can pull the clock back on having, like, we know that when you sleep, your brain clears out the plaque. And when those don't get cleared out up over the decades of your life, you're not going to see this happen immediately, but over the decades of your life, then that is what. So, and once you've been diagnosed or it's happened, there are maybe a few things you can do to make it a little bit better. But the biggest thing you could have done in the past. So I don't know if that feels like a strong push, but I hope it does. Very bad at planning as humans. We talk about humans being in need for connection. That's great. We do. But we also don't plan for the future well. And if there's no direct consequences, which there's not always direct consequences for not sleeping now, there are definitely health that come later down the road. And so while you told us how well you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a hard time falling, try to cut off your screen time an hour before bedtime. If you go to the bathroom a lot at night, try cut down not how much water, how late, and don't drink any fluids an hour or 2 hours. Gotten out, or you go to sleep and you don't have to wake up. I mean, these are just all ideas, and it's very independent body goes through about and to try. And think about the temp, change that and allow you warm. Can do some care partner so that you can not feel like you need to get up and check on them. And that could be put a baby monitor. You have the ability to see them without actually going to check on them. And or it could be put a bed alarm or a floor mat, hear it when somebody actually gets out of bed, and you're not worried about are they getting out of bed or not getting out of bed, so that you have some peace of mind, so that you can actually, even if you lay in that room for 10 hours, if you didn't sleep,
Yep.
and your body still needs it.
Yeah. I think, when I'm like addressing sleep with someone from a therapy perspective, we start by talking about, essentially what you're getting to here, which is like some sleep hygiene, right? Which sleep hygiene is our fancy way of saying, do you have a normal sleep routine? You do things the same way every night before bed to let your body know that it's time to go to sleep. We want to do things like, as you said, limit screen time. If you cannot watch TV or not have a TV in your room, that can be very helpful to boost your sleep quality and make it easier to fall asleep. Think about what you're putting into your body. When I became really, really protective of my sleep over the last few years, because I could feel that it was having a significant impact on me. So, as you know, Brandy, I cut caffeine out of my diet. And as much as I miss that, gosh, do I sleep so much better now. So we want to be mindful of, again, the things we're putting into our body, how stimulated we are at night, being protective of our sleep and setting clear boundaries, having a regular bedtime. And of course, if you're a caregiver and you do have someone that sometimes needs assistance at night, as you said, Brandy, having, different monitors, different alarms, and can you get someone to come in and help you out every now and again so that you can really get a solid quality night's sleep, because there's no substitute for it. And it is one of the most impactful things on our overall health.
So we threw a whole ton at y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully that is hopefully there's some nuggets that you can pull from that. I feel like sometimes when I listen to Impactful or give me a line, like, this is great, but how am I gonna actually put it into my life? Don't feel like you got to action today. Like, that's overwhelming for anybody. Pick the easiest thing you can change today and do it. And then once you're successful at that, because you will be, you can add another podcast. You can come back and pull out a new nugget and try that.
Brandy, so this is what happens when Brandy and I just start talking without a plan.
Listen, I feel like that was pretty well organized.
I'm kind of impressed by us, because this actually is what happens when we start talking without a plan, because this is why we work together, though, because, we're on the same track here.
Exactly.
So if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure, leave us a comment, leave us a review. If there's something that you want to hear more about with this, if you have questions, if something didn't make sense, whatever it is, please leave a comment, let us know so that we can, be responsive to what you listeners want. Please leave a review. That will help people to find this information that need it. And of course, like and subscribe.
And if you want some help with figuring out how to change any one of these 5 things, listen, this is what OTs do. And so we talked in generalities today, but we can talk specifically. So leave us a comment about as much information as you want to leave, and we'll try to give you some specifics.
All right. And we'll see you next time right here on Care Lab. Bye.
Bye.